Hello, another homework on factorization. I'm gonna go through everything again. So if you find something irrelevant, you can skip through the video to the part that you need to know. I'm gonna start with something basic first. So that would be the first part. Let's go with B. So for B, you have to think about two boxes over here. I always divide it into boxes, so they're like two different groups. Now from each group, you're gonna take away something in common. So that's called factorization, taking away stuff. So 7 and 28 are multiples of 7, so that means I can divide both of them with 7. So I'm gonna take away 7 from both of them. And another thing I can take away in common is x. Both of them has an x. I cannot take away y because this one doesn't have a y. So again, you only can take away something in common. X and x squared have two different powers. This one has a power 1. When you don't see a number, it's power number 1. Here is a power 2, pretty obvious over there. So you can only take away the lowest power. The lowest power is 1, so it's x, just x. Now after that, you're gonna make a bracket. Once you clarify what you're gonna take away the most out of them. We're that evil, yeah, we're taking away the most. So 7 divided by 7 is 1, and you take away x, so that's gone. This is 1, right? That is also the reason why you end up with 1, not 0. So it's 1 here. So what remains is going to be 1. Minus is still minus. 28 divided by 7 is 4. So we're going to write 4 here. We take away 1x from 2. So it's 1 left, right? X to the power of 1, or just x. We never dealt with y, so it's still there. So the answer is 7x bracket 1 minus 4xy. Alright, so that's factorization. Now the one with negative, I'll do this one. Yeah, I'll do this one. So over here, from the two boxes, both of them have a minus. I will take away a negative. Both of them has an a. Take the lowest power out. A is the most we can get from both of them. B and b squared. B is the lowest. So now, if you take away negative, it actually changes to positive. We want it to be positive at as much as possible, right? So we take away the negative, so it becomes positive. 2 is never dealt with. A squared is 2 times of a, right? There are 2 a's there. So we take away 1. 1 is left. B, so this one's 1. B is taken away, so none are left. So we're not going to write B here. Negative becomes positive, right? Negative becomes positive. We take away 1a and 1b. So what's left here is just a b. That's a fine answer here. Moving on to the next part. The 4 terms. Now 4 terms, I will do 2 questions on this. Usually we group them up into 2 groups. So I'll group this into red, and this one we group blue, red and blue. Now from the red group, there's something in common, which is 3 and a. 6 divided by 3 is 2. You take 1a away from a squared, 1 is left. Minus 3 divided by 3 is 1. We don't really write 1 when there is something next to 1. So you take away 3a, b is left. Close the bracket here. Now for the blue part, plus, I'm going to take away x. That's the only thing in common. So I take away x, right? Therefore, 2a is left on the left one, minus b on the right one. Now you will notice every time it's a 4-term question, not every time, but 90% of the time, the 2 brackets will end up being similar or the same. If it's the same, you can actually factorize the brackets. So I'm going to factorize 2a minus b. Then we're going to have a bracket here, 3a. So where did I get this? It's the one from the outside. 3a is left, right? If you take away the 2 brackets, what's left is the ones on the outside. 3a plus x, the one on the outside as well. So that is the final answer. You want them to be in brackets as much as possible. That's the meaning of factorization. It's the opposite of rainbow method. So again, if you want to go opposite method, like rainbow method, then you can open this up. It will turn up to be the question. Let's do another one where you have to mix it up. So question F, for example. Now question F over here, 6n and 5m. If you group these two up, there's nothing you can factorize. They have nothing in common. So you have to rearrange it, basically. 6n, you're going to think about, I'm going to pair up 6n with what? Well, you can pair up 6n with this probably, or you can also pair it up with this, right? So maybe I will pair it up with, let's go with negative 15. Let's see how it goes. Negative 15, right? Plus 5m minus 2mn. You're rearranging the terms. So again, negative follows 15. So when you move 15 to the left, make sure that this plus is not following 15. It's actually the negative following 15. So again, they are in boxes. They're in boxes. All right, so I paired it up. 6n minus 15. I can factorize 3 out. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2n minus 15 divided by 3 is 5. Then for the blue part, I can factorize m plus m. I have 5 here, minus, take away m, you have negative 2n. Now you will notice that 2n is here, 5 and 5 here, but it's not exactly the same. There's some problem here. The problem is the negative. The negative is on the 5 here, but the negative is on the 2n here. So you have to find a way to switch the sign, what we call it. So this one requires some trick. Now to switch the sign, to flip the sign, you want to switch these two signs, right? Both of them. And you must do it for both of them every time. We're going to factorize a negative. So I'm going to take away a negative m. So what happens here is this 5 is going to have a negative now, negative 5. And this negative 2n becomes a positive 2n, right? So now you will notice that positive 2n, negative 5, negative 5. The only difference is you have to swap these two, but it's not must. It's actually exactly the same by now. So these two, I'm going to factorize it. It will end up as 2n minus 5. Then what remains will be 3 minus m. Okay? So again, this thing over here is actually the same as 2n minus 5. You just rearranged it. I don't want to write the extra step because I have no space. But if you want to write an extra step, sure, just swap those two. Now, be careful. You cannot swap these two. Like, you cannot write it as 2n minus 5 directly without factorizing negative. Okay, it's not the same. This negative follows 2n. The only way you can swap the sign is to factorize a negative out. And then you can have a negative here and positive here. That's the only way you can do it. Okay, so be really careful with the negatives. I know it's confusing at first, but you will get used to it. Now moving on to identities. There are 2 identities I will teach you. The first one is the 2 squares. 2 term squares. You have to put them in bracket square. H square minus 64, I'll probably give you a list of the square numbers. 64 is actually 8 square. Now once you have a square, a square minus b square, you're supposed to memorize this, but I'm sure you forgot it. It's actually a plus b, a minus b. So what does that mean? A currently is h now. So you're going to have h plus b, right? B is 8 plus 8, h minus 8. So this is the 2 square thing. Now if it's negative at the front, then just swap them. 1 to 1 minus k square. Don't write negative 1 to 1 plus k square, is wrong. So again, they're in boxes like this. You switch by boxes. They are a set together. The other identity is a squared plus 2ab plus b square. The only thing I'll tell you is the first one and the last one, you can change them to a square. X squared plus 24x. You don't even have to consider the middle. Plus middle, the last one is 12 squared. Now if you can change the first one and the last one to a square, most likely it's identity. So all you have to do is bracket x plus over here, 12, and the bracket will have a square. For this one, it's going to be 8 squared minus 16y plus bracket y squared, right? This time, the middle term is a negative, and that's why it's gonna end up as a negative in this bracket. So be careful. That's how you know if it's positive or negative. There's a square outside the bracket. All right, so you have to know these three identities. Most people mix it up, so they go from here and then write this one maybe, or maybe this one. So if you mix it up, you're already wrong. So be careful with that. Yeah, I think that's the most we will do in class. Some of them are difficult. Maybe I'll go through one more. So let's say it looks like this, right? If it's 81x squared, 81 will become 9 squared, and then x becomes x squared. So 9x is inside the bracket with a square outside, plus 36. You're basically taking out the square at once. 2 and y squared, right? Sorry, 4 and y squared can be changed to square root of 4. Yeah, I might teach you square root of 4. Square root of 4 will be 2. Y squared will be y squared. Now, finally, you end up with 9x positive, and then 2y squared. 3 term becomes that one. Yeah, that's it. This is the more difficult one. If you cannot, for example, you're doing square root 12, right? It's giving you decimal. If that's the case, maybe you have to do an extra step. So in this case, you have to do an extra step, which is to factorize 3 first. You end up with 4m squared minus 9m squared. Now next is going to be, these two numbers can be actually be square root. So square root of 4 will be 2. Square root of 9 is going to be 3. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a big bracket like this. This 4m is going to be 2m squared minus 9 is going to be a 3n bracket squared. That's how you change 9 to a square number. So now just remember, if there's no bracket like this, the square only applies to the one next to it, which is n. So a lot of people think this square belongs with 9 as well. It's wrong. That's why we're making this bracket with a square, so that all of them has a square. Now after that, you're going to end up with a plus b, a minus b. So 2m plus 3n bracket 2m minus 3n. And that's how you're going to do identity. So I think a lot of you are going to struggle here. It's going to get confusing now. Too many things to remember, I know. But try your best. This was learned last year anyways, so try your best anyways. Alright, bye. That's all for the video.